Is Ian Rapoport, an NFL Network insider, and you can see Ian Monday through Friday on the Insiders at 12 noon Eastern Time on NFL Plus and 1 p.m. Eastern Time on NFL Network, and he joins us right now on the Harbor One Hotline. Hey, Ian.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Great. Your report this week on Bill Belichick shook the very foundation of Patriots Nation, and maybe took some of the wind out of the sails of the Belichick haters. It's been the topic of much discussion this week. So, and I think really we're interested in what you can and can't say, I guess, about the certain specifics, like the length of the deal. You know, we know two things about his new contract or his extension. One is that it was lucrative, and one that it was long term. The lucrative part, I think we all understand and agree on.
Yeah.
When it comes to
I think it would be more of a surprise if it was not lucrative. But
yes. If it was not lucrative and he signed it, I would be concerned about his current mental health. But long term, a lot of debate here. You know, some saying it's this season and next. It's long term. To me, sounds like long term. Is that what you get? It's a considerable amount of time.
So here's everything I know, or everything I reported on Sunday. Bill Belichick, at some point during this off season, so not like in August, but at some point during the off season, signed a multi-year new contract. It pays him very well. All of his contracts pay him very well. And most of these guys are very well paid. But multi-year new contract is what I was told. So that can mean a lot of things, but at least it means he is under contract for more than this year. It also means that the Patriots made a decision before the season, during the off season, to commit to him for, years to come. That is what I know. That was my report. Now, I know it's sort of being taken in a lot of different ways. That is okay. That is what generally happens when you report something like this, but that is what I know.
I know you would never reveal a source because you would you'd more likely go to jail. But were you surprised by where that information came from when you got it?
Was I surprised at where that information came from? Well, I would say, first of all, there were multiple sources. It was not one source. It was also something that I have worked on and off since, probably in the spring. So I think sort of the impression that's sometimes given, especially in Boston, and obviously I lived in Boston for 3 years, so I know the landscape pretty well. I think the assumption is that I woke up in the morning, someone handed me this envelope containing the secret news, and then I went on air and reported it. That is not exactly the case of how it works in my world, or really ever in anyone's world. I don't know about anyone's world, but definitely not in my world. It's something I worked on for a while, something I was able to nail down, that I started asking questions about, when the Patriots started struggling and when Bill Belichick's job status became ultimately debated. I kind of re-engaged on this news that I had heard about, was able to confirm it, and then reported it on Sunday's show at 10:01 a.m.
Ian, I know you probably don't have like a bunch of details on what is in it. Was there any whispers about a potential trade clause that Bill Belichick, can't be traded or has the right to say where he'd like to go? Is there anything in there?
Not that I had heard, and I don't think there would need to be, if that was even so. First of all, I don't know whether that would be relevant at all. But for the sake of argument, for the sake of answering your question, let's assume that it is relevant. There wouldn't need to be, because, Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. The Patriots treat people with respect and the right way. If there was something that needed to happen, if there was, for instance, a coach trade or compensation, it would only be for somewhere that Bill Belichick wanted to go, and if there was somewhere that he didn't want to go, it just wouldn't happen. All sides would need to agree if there was anything that was going to happen after this season or after next season or literally whenever. So there wouldn't have to be. It would just be all sides getting together and saying, like, here's what would be, the most important thing, and here's where this person would want to go or not want to go. And then, obviously because he's, under contract beyond this year, there would be compensation theoretically for that move.
Ian, our former colleague, and I use that term loosely, Dale Arnold, was reporting that there was some definite. That was a
great shot, a straight from Dale. Yes,
thank you. We didn't really get along. That there's some definition of roles, of specific roles. Is that you hearing anything about? The what I would call the pseudo.
Explain more about that.
Well, I think the assumption would be that Bill's going to hand over some of the personnel duties or something to somebody else.
I have not heard that part of it. If that is the case, now obviously there are personnel people. There's Groh, there's Wolf, there's some people that are really good in the building. Before that, Dave Ziegler did a really nice job. So it's not like. Bill has final say, yes, but there are people doing those jobs as they currently stand. Now, Bill obviously has, significant final say. I have not heard of him giving up final say, if that's what you're wondering. I have not heard that this contract forces him or allows him to give up final say. If that is the case, that would be some news to me, but it's not impossible.
Ian, does the timeline match that obviously you've been working on this, but you got the information for air locked down following the Athletic story where Robert Kraft, people around him, sources around Kraft, told Jeff Howe in the Athletic that he would absolutely fire Bill? Did that come to fruition with this story after that, or did you have it earlier in the week?
Okay, so I saw that story. I'm not saying that I doubt the story because Jeff Howe is good and certainly trusts his sources. I wouldn't say that anything I reported had anything to do with any of that story. First of all, it doesn't, with all due respect to Jeff Howe, who I like a lot, it sort of doesn't matter, because what may or may not happen in the future based on his sources, that would have nothing to do with what I reported. So I guess the answer would be no. It wasn't a reaction to that. I've been working on this story for months, not weeks. And I don't know. I never really thought about it like that, to be completely honest. So I wouldn't say that story had anything to do with what I reported.
Well, it's the first thing that popped in my head because Kraft's being reported as being willing to fire him, and the next thing we know, Sunday morning at 10 a.m., we find out that Bill's not going anywhere. It does sort of chronologically make sense if you're looking at it from an outside perspective.
I guess. I just know, in the course of my reporting, I didn't ask anyone about that. And I generally don't. I don't generally say, hey, this person reported this. Can I now report something to kind of go against it? I try very hard to stay only to what I know and what I can report, but I wouldn't say that report affected anything I reported. I think mainly because, in New England, there's some very good reporters. There's some very connected reporters, and a lot of people report a lot of things. So if I spent a lot of time sort of responding to every different report, I would probably go insane, more insane than I already am.
Well, Ian, not to have you go back to the Dale report, but he also said that he believes that this contract is the end of a tenure, that it's laid out that this will be the end for Bill Belichick. Did you hear anything like that? And if so, do you think that the Patriots have a succession plan put in place for when that time comes?
I was at the league meetings in March, wherever they were, some tropical place. I can't remember, honestly. It was either Arizona or Florida. Maybe it was Arizona. And I was there when Robert Kraft was talking about Gerard Mayo being on the staff and the sort of assumption, I would say, that Gerard Mayo would be the next in line. Obviously, then, Bill O'Brien by that point had been hired too, former head coach. It would sort of make sense to be under consideration too. But I've kind of always thought that whenever Bill Belichick stops coaching, that the Patriots have a pretty good plan. Mayo makes sense. He's an excellent leader. He's a very good defensive coach. I've known him since he was a rookie. To me, he's been a head coach since he was 22 years old. I mean, honestly, like, I thought he was a coach. We used to call him Gerard Belichick in the locker room. Like, he's been a coach ever since he's been a player. So if that was the next, like, that wouldn't surprise me. I don't know contractually in the NFL if you were allowed to lay out a succession plan. I don't know. I think not, but I don't know for sure. I'm just saying, regardless of what the contract says, I assume the Patriots have a pretty solid succession plan and know that whenever it's time, they have some guys who can step in and do a really good job.
Ian, as always, thank you for taking the time, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right, look forward to it. Take care, guys.